2023 to order. Mr. Lauer, can you call the roll, please?
Ms. Shanafeld will not be here tonight. Dr. Prosco?
Here.
I've not heard from Mr. Curry. Mr. Kocher?
Here.
Mr. Steigel?
Here.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Russ?
Here. Before we begin tonight, we need to take a moment to reflect on the terrible loss that this township suffered on November 15th with the passing of Aaron Smith. Aaron had been a member of our planning commission for the better part of a decade. He was a pillar of this community. He was heavily involved in athletics, with soccer, and with basketball. He was a friend to many. He was a talented attorney. I was glad to consider him a personal friend. His loss leaves not only a void in this community, but a hole in our hearts. And above all, Aaron was a devoted husband to his wife, Jessica, and a loving father to his children, Wyatt, Sadie, and Josie, all of whom are in our thoughts and in our prayers as we continue and as they continue to mourn Aaron's passing. So I'd ask that you all join me in a moment of silence in honor of Aaron Smith. Thank you. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda tonight will be a public hearing regarding the 2024 Peters Township Operating Budget and Capital Improvement Program. Mr. Lauer?
Before we continue, can we extend the invitation to our young...
We'll wait till after the public hearing, just so he's not part of the transcript.
Okay. I'm sorry. Please continue.
Of all the actions taken by council in any given year, none is more important than the adoption of the budget. The budget is a document that transforms ideas into actions. It's the strategic plan for the upcoming year. When discussing a proposed budget, the first question always asked by residents is, will there be a tax increase? I'm pleased to announce that there will not be a tax increase in 2024. But while taxes will not increase, there will be a substantial increase in the fees charged for the collection and disposal of solid waste. This increase is necessitated by a dramatic increase in the cost under a new 5-year contract with Waste Management for the collection, processing, and disposal of residential solid waste. If you follow the news, you know that the substantial increase in solid waste fees are being seen throughout southwestern Pennsylvania. Just last week, New Kensington announced that their quarterly fee for solid waste was increasing from $78 to $135 per quarter. The ability of a government to achieve its goals is determined by its capacity to raise funds. In 2024, it is estimated that 59% of Peters Township's total revenues of approximately $27 million will be derived from taxes. The township anticipates collecting almost $15,900,000 in tax revenue. Of the taxes levied, earned income tax and the real estate tax are the most significant. The earned income tax is a 0.5% tax levy against the wages earned by township residents. In 2024, earned income tax revenues will account for $7,731,000, or 49% of the taxes levied by the township. The real estate tax is a tax levied against the assessed value of real estate property located in the township. The responsibility for establishing the assessed value of properties rests with Washington County. The budget receipt for real estate tax assumes a property tax millage of 1.7 mils, the same rate levied in 2022. In 2024, real estate taxes will account for $5,784,000, or 36% of the overall tax levy. The real estate transfer tax is a tax levied on the value of real estate transferred in Peters Township. The township levies is 1% of the value of property transferred. In 2024, revenues from the transfer tax are estimated to be $1,900,000. We will be carefully monitoring the de-transfer tax in 2024 because receipts under this tax are directly impacted by mortgage rates. In 2024, the township estimates the revenues from non-tax sources will equal $11,200,000, which is 41% of the revenues collected. Charges for services equal $4,839,000, or 43% of all non-tax revenues. In 2024, Peters Township anticipates receiving $4,772,000, or 43% of Township's non-tax revenues in the form of grants. An important and ongoing source of grant funds for Peters Township is the Pennsylvania State Liquid Fuels Program. Under this program, the state provides individual municipalities with a portion of the monies derived from the imposition of a statewide gasoline tax. In 2012, Peters Township began receiving a grant allocation under the Natural Gas Impact Fee Program, and in 2024, revenues from this source are budgeted at $474,000. The township receives funds under the foreign fire and foreign casualty insurance programs as well. Funds received under the foreign fire fund program are mandated by Pennsylvania state law to be turned over to the Peters Township Volunteer Fire Company Relief Association. In addition to these block grants, the township is the recipient of significant categorical grants that will offset costs associated with capital projects in the park. Within the chart of accounts promulgated by the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development, municipalities are encouraged to group program expenses into 4 categories. These program categories are general government, protection to persons and property, public works, and culture and recreation. In addition to these 4 programs, the budget includes expenses related to debt service and insurance and employee benefits. Total budget expenses for 2024 are approximately $34,367,000. General government expenditures represent costs associated with back office business functions of the township, such as accounting, payroll, tax collection, engineering, network administration, and managerial expenses. In 2024, $3,240,000 is appropriated for general government expenditures. This represents 9% of the overall budget. Expenses associated with protection to persons and property account for $7,610,000, or 22% of the total expenses in 2024. Programs contained under the public safety category include police services, fire services, emergency medical services, animal control, planning, zoning, and building inspection. Public works expenses in 2024 are estimated to be $8,870,000, or 26% of the total expenses. A significant portion of this amount is associated with capital improvements, including the resurfacing of roads and the rehabilitation of storm sewers. The 2024 budget includes appropriations for the extension of Manor Way, as well as a connection into Peterswood Park from Sugar Camp Road. Programs under the category of culture and recreation are the Township's Library, Parks and Recreation, and the Peters Township Community Television. In 2024, expenses for culture and recreation are estimated to be $9,100,000, or 27% of the expenses. The higher the normal share of the budget for culture and recreation expenses are a result of significant one-time capital projects. Municipal budgets are driven by expenditures for capital projects as well as personnel. The 2024 budget contains an ambitious capital improvement program. Expenditures for capital projects account for a total of $10,536,000 and account for 31% of all expenditures. Several of the projects, and this is a list of all the projects that are intended for next year. Several of the projects, such as the road paving program, are repetitive annual capital projects. In addition, the proposed budget appropriates funds for 3 significant capital improvement initiatives, all that involve improvements to the parks. With financial assistance in the form of a $650,000 grant, Peters Township will undertake a series of improvements to 2 baseball fields in Peterswood Park. These improvements include replacing the existing sports lighting system, the replacement of the existing dugouts and press boxes, as well as the installation of a synthetic turf infield on a Little League field. The township is a recipient of a $3,200,000 grant for the purpose of constructing Phase 1 of the Peters Township Aquatic Center. The Phase 1 of the center will be constructed in Rolling Hills Park, includes a splash pad, a support building, and necessary infrastructure improvements. The third project is Phase 2 of the Rolling Hill Master Plan. As envisioned, this project includes outdoor basketball courts, a deck hockey facility, a dog park, and a restaurant. The construction of the fire station is complete. The staffing of the station is staffed by volunteers as well as career firefighters. There will be 2 additional firefighters at the station 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. To achieve the goal, the township requires hiring 7 additional firefighters over 2022 staffing levels. The 2023 and the 2024 budgets both include appropriations sufficient to hire 2 additional firefighters. Beyond these 4 firefighters, the intention is to pursue federal funding to assist with additional hiring. The township intends also to hire an administrative assistant, and this individual will be splitting time between the fire and planning departments. This chart shows what the anticipated cost of the township of these 3 additional positions, not only in terms of wages, but total compensation. I think the one thing that I do believe is that come when we begin to work on the 2025 budget, that we're going to have a year where we're not increasing the staffing in the township. We have done a considerable amount of hiring over the last 6 years, and I think there needs to be a pause so as to allow our funding sources to catch up with our commitments in terms of personnel. But that's an overview of the 2024 budget, if anybody has any questions.
Any questions from council? Any comments from the audience? Can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. That concludes the public hearing. Move on to regular business. Young Mr. Mills, you can come up and join us now.
Yep.
You're done. Next item will be approval of the minutes of the meeting of November 13th. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Abstain.
501, Mr. Lauer. Special reports, none, Mr. Lauer?
None.
Okay, we'll move right into audience comments. This is the portion of the meeting where any member of the audience can speak for up to 5 minutes on a non-agenda item. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Nope. Seeing no one, we'll move into unfinished business, of which there is also none, so we'll move right into new business. First item, discussion regarding conceptual plan for Rolling Hills Park Phase 2.
So one of the things that's in the budget for this year is to complete a design for the Phase 2 of the Rolling Hills Park. Mark and Dave are here to discuss that. I'm going to turn it over to Mark maybe to begin the...
Laser pointer.
Yeah, if it works. Yeah.
Is there anything in the budget for a second or third laser pointer? Because the way you guys keep passing it.
We could each have a laser.
There you go. Exactly.
So
Donate one couple.
back in September, if you recall, we awarded a contract to Gateway Engineers to begin the design and permitting for Phase 2 of Rolling Hills. Obviously, last year we completed Phase 1 of Rolling Hills, which is off the page to your right. That included, obviously, the pavilions, the Great Lawn, connector trail to the Arrowhead Trail, a bunch of features that kind of made it look like a county park. Phase 2, as we've been discussing, we have basketball courts, pickleball courts, deck hockey, centrally located restroom, additional parking. Obviously, this is more for the deck hockey. We have volleyball shown here. Internally, we're talking and thinking that's probably going to get moved down to the Aqua Center, the Aquatic Center. It just kind of makes more sense in that setting. Plus, off the page to the bottom here, really in the area that surrounds that electrical tower in the park, we think that's a good place for the dog park. That was also part of the Phase 2 discussion. This is all in accordance with the approved master plan for the park. The plan would be, depending on budget, to start this next year, start construction, hopefully finish it in 2025. I know Dave is here, Dave Brooks. He's had some discussions, taken some comments from the Park and Rec Board. Dave, I don't know if you want to discuss any of them, or...
Yeah, I can go over a summary of the feedback we got from the Park and Rec Board. Sent the information out to them. They reviewed it. Overall, from a programmatic standpoint, the amenities selected in Phase 2 that we have here are adequate from what the community has expressed throughout community surveys and feedback. Some items that the Parks and Rec Board would like to be considered, which I think we've addressed those here, to make sure there's adequate parking for amenities proposed, make sure the grading and accessibility isn't an issue from the parking lots to amenities. Consider sidewalks along the parking areas to different areas, which we have in the concept. And can the location of the pickleball courts in Phase 2 be located close enough to placement of Phase 3 tennis center once we get to that point and that's built out? So, Mark, flip to that slide there.
So one thing we tasked Gateway with doing is, this western half of the park, the master plan also intended for an indoor tennis center and some outdoor full-size tennis courts. You know that we've been discussing over the past several years with the development of the master plan, potentially taking the tennis center from this location here at the municipal complex, putting it up in Rolling Hills Park. So this part up here represents Phase 3. So they've kind of fit everything together. They've rough graded it in to make sure it works. We're going to have some excess dirt in Phase 3 that we'll have to accommodate. But overall, we think the flow works very nice. It's kind of organic, very park-like looking. We can fit all the features that were intended to be programmed into Phase 2 and Phase 3. So at this point, we're happy with the layout, and we intend to move full steam ahead here with at least the design of Phase 2, starting with some of the stormwater permitting here this month, and then eventually landing next year with a full set of bidding documents. So
the question in front of council tonight is, does this match up with what your vision is for Phase 2, so that in fact we can move ahead with the design of the project? The one thing that I will tell you is that you have two projects happening in the park. Both of them are dependent in part upon the money that the township borrowed a number of years ago, and so the aquatic center probably needs to be bid ahead of this so that we know exactly how much money is available to be able to fund this project. Because by adding the pickleball courts in here, I think you're going to have increased substantially the cost of the project. And but regardless, I think the plan is laid out in such a way that we would want to grade all this in to be able to, if we're going to do that at a later date, be able to do it easily.
I don't know that I understood your concept of having to bid the aquatic center before we make a commitment to go forward with this. Is that what I understood you to say?
That's exactly what I said, because you have sitting about $5,500,000 from the bond issue that is intended to be spent on the parks. You have a responsibility on the aquatic center to provide a match to the grant that you have. That grant's $3,200,000. I can't imagine, although I could be surprised once again, that the splash pad could cost $6,400,000.
If it does, we're not building it.
Yeah. So whatever that difference is between what the required match is and the amount of bond monies that are sitting there is available to do this project. So you have to find out how much money's left here.
Your characterization of the aquatic center at that point is limited to the splash pad, not...
Phase 1 of the aquatic center.
Okay, that part I don't know that I understood.
Isn't it the building, the splash pad, and the parking lot?
Yes, it's
Okay, so it's not
the
just-
infrastructure. That's why it's more than a couple $1 million, but if it's 6.4, I'm going to be shocked.
Now, would the plan be to keep these pickleball courts and these basketball courts lit so people could use them at night too?
I asked.
The idea is they have all of these facilities lit.
The other question I had before is that deck hockey, about doing that multifunctional.
The multi-sport court.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something we need to discuss. Look at what the community surveys and responses were before I started. We can review those. That's an option that can be built in there. It's a little different than a deck hockey court. There's chances, the way they're built, the balls, if you wanted to play deck hockey in there, the balls could come underneath it because it's not built directly to the surface. But you can play other sports in that area.
You can bid it as an alternate.
Right.
Well, I'm not going to tolerate the fact that it would eliminate the possibility of having a deck hockey rink. Is that what you're
If you
telling me?
switch to the multi-sport, the way it's built, there's a gap on the bottom of that multi-sport to let rain and water flow out of that area. So there is a chance for a puck or ball to go underneath that area. So that's something we'd have to look at in the design of it.
Well, I'm just thinking that I certainly have represented to this community that the deck hockey is a concept that I am committed to, and I don't think that I want to compromise or tell people we're doing a bait and switch without their chance to come in and yell at us.
Right.
I guess the other question I have is this tennis center. I mean, it's not planned all for tennis courts right now, or is it? Are we going to be able to add more pickleball into this indoor center?
Well, I don't know the answer to that question. Of course, it all depends on how many tennis courts that you want to do indoors. You can also line the indoor courts in such a way that they can be used for both. But to be honest with you, I think when we get done with the improvements in Peterswood Park, the phase 1 of the aquatic center, and this project, I think it'll be a while before we're in a position to be doing additional projects of the scale that tennis center would be, because that's a multi-million-dollar project for which you're going to have to borrow funds.
I guess just thinking long-term, I would consider calling it a racket center rather than a tennis center. So,
Yeah.
Mark, maybe you can educate me as to where the overhead power lines run across this particular concept.
So that tower that you see is about where the laser pointer is now. So they run northwest. So they'll kind of clip the corner of this parking. That's one of the reasons we wanted to put the dog park area under those power lines, no impediments. Power company usually doesn't mind you parking under it, but once you start to put structures, that's a no-no. So that's this area, kind of in this corridor, is off limits.
They've also had concern about light towers, and they've also had concern over fences.
Right. Yeah, so we don't intend there to be any fences really in this area. Up near the tower and the dog park, I don't envision the fence. I mean, of course, we're not at that level yet of detail in this, but Dave and I were actually talking this morning that, you know, after we get the go-ahead to start hardcore design here, we'll have to figure out the configuration of the dog park, where the large dog area, small dog area, fence, corral area, and everything is going to be. And that may come into play. I mean, we've made
I just wanted
contact
you to
with
be
the power
cognizant
company.
of those issues as they have come up in Peterswood Park.
Yep.
All right, I like it.
I like it too.
yep. Thank you.
Thank you, good job, guys. Or girls, too.
All right, next item will be award of a contract for the purchase of rifles for the Peters Township Police Department.
So the 2023 budget includes the Equitable Sharing Program Fund, which accounts for revenues received by Peters Township as a result of the police department's participation in the U.S. Food and Drug Administration Task Force. Included in the equitable share fund was an appropriation for the purchase of rifles. The intent is to replace the township's existing rifles, some of which are 20 years old, with a standard issue rifle for all officers. On October 31st, bids were open for the purchase of 30 Giselle rifles with suppressors. 2 firms submitted bids. The chart shows the bid tabulation. The low bidder was Atlantic Tactical, this is a business that's been around since 1972 and is a supplier for the Pennsylvania State Police. It's my recommendation that Peters Township award a contract for the purchase of 30 rifles with suppressors for a total price of $78,025.80 to Atlantic Tactical.
So moved.
Second. Is there any trade-in factored into this with the existing rifles?
I don't know what the intention is. They're not trading in with this company. I don't know what the intention is with disposing of the existing rifles, but there'll be some offset to that cost as a result.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, award of a contract for an emergency repair of a storm sewer on Camp Lane.
Mark, do you want to explain about that?
I will do that. On Camp Lane, we've been plagued over the past couple of years by a development of a sinkhole along the shoulder of Camp Lane. Here's Route 19, here's where Camp Lane comes off. That Arlecchino restaurant is down off the page there.
So this is the lower entrance of Camp Lane,
This is
right?
the upper entrance. This is the upper.
The southern entrance.
The southern, okay, sorry,
Southern,
upper
yeah,
southern. Thank you.
It's higher and it's more south. About in this area, we've had a sinkhole that we've had Public Works fill in over the past couple of years. We've done some investigations, crawled up and down the pipe. It's a large diameter pipe. It's a 66-inch diameter corrugated metal pipe. Basically takes the stream that used to parallel Route 19 back in the day underneath Route 19 and dumps it out down next to Arlecchino Restaurant. We've been in the pipe. We finally identified that this elbow, there's a 45-degree bend in the pipe that's starting to come apart. I engaged Gateway last month to come out and do some surveying, which you see here, get the heights of some overhead wires and start to game plan what the best repair is here. It is a deep pipe. It's a large diameter pipe. We have the impediment of the overhead wires. I think to open cut excavate this is going to be an extraordinarily complex project. So we started looking at some internal lining possibilities. There's a company by the name of National Gunite. They specialize in doing full circumference and even partial circumference concrete lining of these diameter pipes. Coincidentally, they just did a project across Route 19 from the funeral home up 2 more businesses. I forget what those businesses are, but it was for the private businesses that have this pipe running under their properties. Spoke with those businesses. They were happy with National Gunite. National Gunite is a member of the CoSTARS cooperative purchasing program through the state. So, in speaking with Gateway, their recommendation was to line this pipe. We think that we can line this failing elbow, and what's happening now is during large storm events, there's material that's being carried through that opening in the elbow, and that's why the sinkhole is developing. The rest of the pipe is not in great shape on the inverts, so we're going to do a partial lining from 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock on the pipe. We don't think we need to do it full circumference. The top of the pipe's in good shape. So the long and short of it is for $35,788 was the CoSTARS price through National Gunite. I would recommend that we award them a contract to do a concrete lining of this storm sewer. One more thing I just want to tell council. We fully anticipate that when we line this, there's still going to be voids around the pipe. Obviously, those voids have been happening for the past couple of years. That's going to continue to happen even though we've quote-unquote fixed the pipe. We're going to have to wait till that normalizes, till those voids start to fill in over the time. We may have to go back and keep filling in that sinkhole, but if we fix the root of the problem, we think that we can save a lot of money by not having to dig this up. So it's my recommendation that we award National Gun a contract for $35,788 through the
So
Correspondence
moved.
program.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, change order number 1 for a contract with Sternberger Floors for the installation of flooring at the Community Recreation Center.
So we're trying to close out this contract. Sternberger Floors was awarded a contract for $126,100 for recarpeting and tile replacement at the rec center. The proposed change order includes a deduction of $2,048.20, which represents post-construction cleaning performed by our custodial service company. The installation of the tile base, and there was a metal termination strip, was added to the contract at a cost of $4,325.87. So the net change to the contract is $2,277.87, or 1.8%. The project in total still remains under budget, and it's my recommendation that council approve change order 1. Steinberger Floors for the Community Recreation Center renovation in the amount of $2,277.87.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 501, Mr. Lauer. Next item, change order numbers 7 and 8 to a contract with TBI Contracting for the construction of Fire Station number 3.
So the Fire Station number 3 project is complete. Prior to closing out the project, it's necessary to authorize and execute 2 change orders. Both of the change orders are reducing the payment to the contractor. They include a change order in the amount of $1,428.68 to cover the cost for the temporary utility gas that was used during construction, and then also a change order of $3,585 to cover the final cleaning of the facility. The final cleaning of the facility was done by our contractor. Over the course of the project, the change orders have totaled $73,093.35. This represents 2% of the original contract amount. It's my recommendation council approve change orders 7 and 8 from TBI Contracting for the construction of Fire Station number 3, reducing the amount of the contract by $5,013.68.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, resolution amending the traffic improvement fee capital improvement program.
The next 2 items are actually related. Annually, the planning department and the traffic improvement fee committee is charged with reviewing the capital improvement program that's associated with that fee. This year, there are no new projects added. The only thing that is being done is to change the dates when anticipated improvements will be accomplished. And so it's my recommendation that Peters Township Council adopt Resolution 110323, amending the Peters Township Transportation Impact Fee Capital Improvement Program.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor,
I
say aye.
have a question.
Okay.
It says that there's a recommendation that the existing traffic impact fee not be adjusted. It is, however, necessary for council to adopt an ordinance stating the value of the maximum allowable fee.
Yeah,
Is that the same fee, or can it be higher?
No, well, and that's the second action, not the resolution. What we have been doing is that every other year we look at this fee for the purposes of increasing it, and we attempt to keep it in line with what other municipalities who have this fee charge. This is not the year that we would be looking at increasing the fee. But having said that, what is required is to calculate what the maximum fee could be. And so the ordinance that follows this resolution incorporates into the code the maximum amount that the fee could be, which is way beyond where you'd ever want it to be. It's like $6,000 some dollars. We'd
But
never
does
want
that give you the flexibility that if
Yes.
the economy goes to hell in a handbasket and now these costs are going to be more than $17.50, that we have the ability during the calendar year to increase that fee?
Yes.
Okay. That's the only question I had.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, an ordinance amending the Peters Township Code of Ordinances, Chapter 241, impact fees.
And that's just what Mr. Arcuri and I just spoke about, so.
I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 896, amending the Peters Township Code of Ordinances, Chapter 241, titled Impact Fees.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Next item, approval for recording purposes of the Newcastle Preliminary Plan is shown on drawings prepared by Victor Wetzel Associates dated September 29th, 2023 for 339 Justified Land Company.
We're going to start by having Mr. Sutter.
That's a tough one.
So this is a development proposed under the CR overlay district. It's 21.3 acre site along Just About Road across from the recently approved Tuscany 2 development. It's in the vicinity with the intersection with Sienna Trail. It's involved in this development would be the construction of proposed drawbridge lane, which would connect Just About Road and Sienna Trail. It would comprise 24 lots, 21 of which will access drawbridge lane, and the remaining 3 would front Just About Road. All lots are proposed to be improved with single-family detached homes, and the 24 lots results in a 1.1 dwelling units per gross acre for the development. 48% of the site's area will be set aside for open space, and lot areas will range from 0.24 acres to 0.63 acres. Majority of the stormwater will be directed into 3 detention facilities, ultimately to be owned and maintained by the township. On-lot sumps will control stormwater for the 3 properties along Just About Road. Sanitary sewer service for the development will be facilitated through an extension to the Peters Township Sanitary Authority main line that is being installed to also serve the Tuscany 2 development. It's the recommendation from staff that the Newcastle Development Preliminary Plan be approved, subject to the conditions outlined in the memo you've received. And I believe the developer is here to present on their project as well.
Mr. Victor, how are you tonight?
Thank you.
Good.
Stephen Victor, Victor Wetzel Associates, and I think Jim has pretty well identified the proposed plan. We've been before your planning commission, they've recommended it, and we recognize the comments in his letter and accept all those conditions. So we're prepared to have you move forward if that would be acceptable to you.
Thank you, Mr. Victor. Do you have any questions for Mr. Victor?
What are we thinking in a projected price range for the properties?
I think we have committed to the builder yet for this, so I'd like not to talk in terms of the price point of the houses. We've interviewed several different building companies, and they have, all of them are pretty high-end, if you would. So I'd like not to go on record as to what we think it is until we know specifically who the builder is.
Where are these locations on Sienna Trail and Just About? I know you mentioned something about right across from Tuscany 2, but there's that Schneider Road right there.
The entrance to Tuscany 2 is approximately right here, and the entrance for Newcastle is here. So the Newcastle Street comes in, curves, and comes back to Sienna Trail. So that's it. Because of the location of this intersection and where the detention facility falls, and there's a electrical tower, we weren't able to have a plus intersection, so we used a offset tees, and the separation was, I think, around 300 some odd feet. So we separated them enough so that there would not be any conflict between the 2 different entrance streets to the plant. And the 3 lots that face onto Just About are down at this location, and all the other lots all fall within the internal street as shown here.
Those lots on Just About will go, their driveways will be on Just About.
Yes, it'd be the 3 lots, 22, 23, and 24. And we made those larger where we're using really lot clustering on the interior. Here, we made these larger to be sort of consistent with sort of the neighborhood, if you would, for larger single homes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
If I could just make one observation, is that, we've had a lot of discussion about the conservation residential zoning district, and of course, we have, for the most part, repealed that from use for any new developments. But I think this development illustrates what is the potential with that, that concept. The thing that Steve pointed to was, like, for instance, the tower that's located on that one portion of it. Instead of it being incorporated into somebody's yard, it's incorporated into the open space and removed from there. What they've done here in terms of the amount of open space that's being provided, it's well in excess of that which is required by the ordinance. There's variations in the lot sizes. They're not all quarter-acre lots, and so you're going to get some variation in the size and nature of the homes. And I think when the CR zone was created, I think this is what kind of was envisioned would occur. Now, is that what has occurred? No, because I think people build to the ordinance. But in this particular case, the developers to be commended for actually working with the property and the ordinance to come up with something I think that's going to be a very desirable development. So,
Are all the lots going to be sewered by gravity flow?
Yes. Yes.
Are the
you say? The developers?
it should be commended.
I heard that wrong.
And the answer is yes, all the lots will be gravity sewer. And that I think what Paul was referring to is that there is a larger drainage way that comes down through here, a smaller tributary that comes through here, and another one that comes through here. And by having the clustering provision allowed us to make the smaller lots and avoid having impacts or minimize those impacts to those areas, and thus you sort of end up with more open space than what you would be required to do. But it's because these are areas that are either part of the stream area or a hillside, or you've got a pipe gas line. Equitrans has a pipeline running through here, so all those factors come together to say, hey, this is where we have placed the lots that works best physically and topographically, and then as a consequence, you get the larger open space areas.
Okay, so the sewer is like lots 3 through 8. Where are the sewers going to be for those?
Sanitary sewer is coming through here, comes down and run along just about here. It comes over and then it goes around the backside to here, crosses over and gets back to here.
Do we know whether the sanitary authority is going to make the people up above connect?
That is something, we actually had the Planning Commission meeting, had a couple of residents from that area, and I spoke with them again today. I don't know if the sanitary authority is going to make them connect, but I believe there were conversations between them and the developer about potentially having connections occur.
Okay.
And
Well, I'm going to pick up on Paul's comments because I, too, find this development to be approximating a little bit of the vision we had when I voted in favor of developing this concept. You'll hear me later in this meeting, probably, have a different opinion. So I'm not going to commend you, okay, but thank you.
That's all I've had in 20 years. I'm good. Another 20 years.
I'm going to write that down.
That was really Steve's vision, and when we got together, I'm like, I'm trying to crowd them on there and make this thing, nicer than what the township had hoped for. And, by having all the curves and everything in it, I mean, it's just not the postage stamp look. It really came out well. I'll give Steve credit for that.
All right, does anybody want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion. Council approves for recording purposes Newcastle Preliminary Plan as shown in drawings prepared by Victor Wetzel Associates dated September 29, 2023 for 339 Just About Lane Company, subject to the conditions recommended by Peter's Township Planning Commission.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
I'm going to recuse myself.
501, Mr. Lauer. Thank you, Mr. Victor.
Thank you very much.
Next item, approval for recording purposes of the Froebe Farm Preliminary Plan as shown on drawings prepared by JMS Engineering dated November 13, 2023 for Froebe Management LLC.
This is another development proposed under the CR Overlay District. This is an 87.3 acre site at the intersection of Froebe Road and Meredith Drive, located east of Pierswood Park, west of the 1781 Golf Course, and north of the Oak Ridge Plan. A new roadway network comprised of 5 roads is proposed as part of the development. It would include 2 stubs to the east to allow for future connections to the adjacent golf course property, and a realignment of the intersection of Froebe Road and Meredith Drive is proposed as well. The development will comprise 170 lots to be improved with single-family detached homes to be constructed over 4 phases. Lots are proposed to range in size from approximately 1/4 to 1/3 acre. Stormwater will be controlled by 3 stormwater management facilities intended to ultimately be owned and maintained by the township. The version of the plan that was reviewed by the Planning Commission showed sanitary sewer service conveyed entirely by gravity through an extension of a Peters Creek Sanitary Authority main line currently located at the southern edge of the adjacent 1781 golf course. The current version of the plan shows sanitary sewer service from all of phases 2, 3, and 4 to be conveyed to a pump station. Sanitary sewer service from this pump station in Phase 1 would exit the property via gravity through an existing easement to the south of the development to Fairview Circle. This proposal has not to date been approved by the Peters Creek Sanitary Authority. At their meeting on October 10th, 2023, the Peters Township Environmental Quality Board took unanimous action to recommend the preservation of 2 large old white oak trees within the site. They have cited Section 38533A of the Subdivision Land Development Ordinance, which states a subdivider or developer shall make every effort to preserve shade trees. They further reference the Plan Peters 2022 Comprehensive Plan, which calls for the incorporation of natural features as amenities into future developments. As such, they are recommending a tree protection zone be implemented by the developer during construction of the development. The developer has responded by showing the recommended tree protection zone around the older of the tree on the most current plans.
So wait, the 2 green circles will be the,
Those are the approximate locations, yeah.
well, it looks like the lower one's going to be somewhat of a problem, isn't it?
Yes, that's why they showed it on the first one. But the Planning Commission has recommended approval of the plan subject to the conditions outlined in the memo, and Mr. Lauer has proposed 2 additional recommendations related to those trees.
Yeah, so, I don't think just simply having an area that protects the tree during construction is enough. I think that if in fact you want to preserve the trees, you'd have to have a permanent conservation easement, and it would, the outline of that I think would have to be prescribed by an arborist hired by the township. And then also you'd want to come up with a plan that's designed to protect the trees during construction. The other thing is I think a note needs to be placed on the plan that states the final plans of each phase will not be considered until such time as Froebe Management LLC demonstrates that the phase has access to sanitary sewer system. I know there's been a lot of discussion back and forth with the Peters Creek Sanitary Authority, and it's just not clear what the Sanitary Authority's position is with regard to a pump station to service the property. So,
No, we had an arborist go out and look at these 2 trees and give us an idea or an opinion as to whether or not, the trees are in good health. Because I really don't want to see the developer spend money to try to, work around these trees if it turns out the trees aren't going to live much longer. And I say that, some of you may remember back in the mid-'90s when they were building the access road around PV up to the top athletic field. And for those of us who went to PV, you'll remember at the 100-wing playground, there was a big oak tree down below the playground, which they used to take us all out every year in the fall to go look at the tree. It was a big thing, when you're in first, second, third grade. Well, anyway, when they were going to put that road in, you may remember this, the original plan for that road was for the road to be about 60 feet further down the hill than it is. But then the PTA mom went out and realized that that's right where the oak tree was. So the school board agreed to move the road 50, 65 feet up, but of course, in the course of building the road, they buried the tree and the tree died anyway. So my point being that, before we tell the developer that they have to create essentially like, a goal crease kind of thing where nobody's allowed in or whatever, and, a permanent conservation easement, I'd want to know that, the tree is actually going to live for, or in the opinion of an arborist, is actually going to live for a decent amount of time.
Well, my understanding is that the Environmental Quality Board's actually gone out and done a survey of specimen trees in the township, and they're going to be coming to council to talk about that. And they've employed the services of an arborist from W&J who is providing them information with regard to how to protect these trees. So I believe, you can see the one tree off of the road, and it's probably not that difficult to protect because it sits in an open space. So you would hope that there would not be significant grading there, although if that location is actually correct, it's sitting on the edge of a pond, which would be a problem. So I think it's a viable tree, but, I'm not an arborist.
Well, nor am I, and that's just why I'm asking.
But that tree, and again, they've done survey throughout Peters with a number of trees. That tree towards the front there is believed to be over 300 years old.
There's supposed to be some gas wells on this property, but I don't see them identified on the map. Do we know where they're at?
I do not. The developers here, and the engineer.
Do you guys have any idea where they're at?
Could you come forward?
Yeah, sure.
Identify yourselves, please.
Sure. David Montgomery, attorney for Froebe Development, LLC. With me is John Schleicher of JMS Engineering. John's the consulting engineer for the project. And do you know anything about gas wells on the property?
I am not aware of any gas wells on the property. There's a gas transmission line that runs through the site.
Hang on, I may be able to find them for you right now. It's a pretty simple exercise.
Young man knows his business.
Unfortunately, we don't have internet that works, but yeah, I'd challenge you to make that part of your due diligence going forward.
Sure thing, yeah. And if they are, they'll be, addressed appropriately.
Yeah, the way you have houses packed in here, I'm sure that you're probably going to have a lot sitting on top of one, and probably two.
Here. Right.
Mr. Tleichel, one of the things you could do is to make it a condition that they be shown on the final plans and addressed at that time. That would avoid it.
Well, I said I was going to say something about 10 minutes ago, and I'm going to
You've already
say it.
handed out too many praises for your track record, Mr. Lewis. So.
Well, this is not. This is my worst nightmare.
Yeah, this is going to be the ugliest plan I think we've had to date. I mean, it's packed in here. It looks urban. It's atrocious.
I don't think anyone really likes how it looks.
No.
So.
No.
And that, is certainly grounds for why we have taken action to eliminate this possibility in the future. So whether we can stop it now, I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I'm very urban. I don't know that I even would characterize it as that, but
Worse.
But it's meeting all of our current regulations, right?
it is compliant with.
Yeah, that was going to be my point, is that it's compliant with the ordinance.
Right.
Well, there was a reason we repealed the ordinance, and unfortunately, we didn't repeal it before they brought the plan in.
It's a matter of perspective, Mr. Chair.
You're right, Mr. Montgomery, it is. Exactly right. And if I were standing there in your shoes, I would have said the same thing to me. There's no question about that.
Anyways, the bottom line is there gas wells on this?
I'm looking now. I can't get the internet to work here.
Do we have any idea what the cost of these lots and homes are going to be? I know there's no developer yet.
I think we give the same answer that Mr. Victor gave, that I don't think we've committed to a builder yet. But, I mean, the developer has a lot of developments in Peters Township, so there's a track record here. It'll give you some idea of the type of construction.
So on the very, I guess that would be the eastern side, where that jagged line goes. So there's a space between the roadway and the property line. That strip that goes all the way up. Is that going to be open space or, right, that area, that area up there, yeah?
Yeah, I can address that. We've had a lot of discussion with the township and with the staff, Mr. Lauer, Mr. Zemaitis, and the planning staff. Been working for a couple of years at this. And just to quickly address the density, we're using the option A, the least dense of the conservation overlay developments, which is 2 per acre. With that, there's a 25% open space requirement. We're providing 30% open space, which works with the 2.5 dwelling units per acre, yet we are at the 2 dwelling units per acre. The strip to the east, there's just a bit of a gap between the development road and the golf course to the east, which is a developable, has development potential. There are some environmental constraints where you see phase 3, so we were only able to single load that roadway. The strip is going to be dedicated to the township, not in the form of right-of-way, but in the form of an independent strip, a parcel that potentially could be deeded to a developer of the golf course. That is not included in the open space calculation, so that's above and beyond the 30% open space being proposed.
I do see a well on this property looking on DEP's oil and gas viewer.
There is or is
There
not?
is. There's definitely one on that property.
Is it active? Or you can't tell from that website?
I don't have enough view on my phone to see it.
Sir, you said this layout here, there's 30% open area?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is this the original design, or was there a different original when the plan was sent in?
The difference between what you see here, and in fact, what's delayed this from going through the planning commission and getting to council, is the question of sanitary sewers. But this layout's been pretty much fixed. The one thing I will point out that the developer is doing is the relocation of the intersection of Meredith Drive and Froebe Road.
So this is not the same design as the original, to be clear.
Only to the extent of how it's sewered.
Okay.
Well, didn't the original one call for relocating Froebe Road too?
This does.
The whole thing?
Well, no.
No.
I thought the original one had Froebe actually being moved to the other way end of the property.
Remember, Paul, we had the one, because we were talking about it, it moved Frobe kind of up to the top of the
It says something
page,
might be available.
behind the house.
No.
That was a very early iteration.
I've never even seen that.
Yeah,
I'm the only one to remember seeing that.
So what?
There was a plan at one point that called for Froebe to be moved, the road actually to be moved up to the top of the property.
I thought it was supposed to cut pretty much to a perfect four-way intersection.
That's what I thought too. Okay, so I'm not the only one that's remembering.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think the
This
bottom
is fine. I want to make sure I wasn't remembering that.
further than I did.
Yeah, I could maybe shed a little bit more light on that. We discussed multiple concepts, again, with staff. The plan that went to planning commission, though, is this. The only difference from then and now is the method of conveyance of the sanitary sewers, and refining the plan to address engineer reviews and staff reviews. And to clarify or answer the question on the relocation of Meredith and Froebe intersection, this is currently Froebe Road. Meredith comes at a challenging angle here. To improve the intersection for sight distance at its current location is prohibitive by not just horizontal alignment, but the vertical limitation on sight distance. So the best way, really the only way, in my opinion, to address the deficient sight distance at the intersection is to relocate the intersection, which, in addition to dedicating the right-of-way, the developer has committed to construct the actual improvements as well. There was at one time a concept that brought Froebe around and kind of tied back in the northern portion of the site, just based on, again, the evolution of the design in those conversations. We kind of kept the Meredith Drive relocation consistent with what is in your capital improvements plan, and again, just further refined it for, kind of the best fit as the design evolved.
So tell us more about your plan to save the two mighty oaks.
The oak can be,
Hey, UQB made a deal about it, so.
in this portion, there's we've taken a look at there's a stormwater management facility in there. It's kind of a long, narrow configured facility. We think we could shorten that up and widen it out to preserve a conservation area around that tree. The second tree is obviously in this area here. It's kind of right in the middle of where there are some constraints with the road design as far as getting the grade. The most southern portion of the road, that sits up on a ridge, I don't know if you're familiar with the site, and where the bold line kind of runs across the central portion of the site is a drainage course. The site rises up from the middle toward the bottom of the page, rises up and then rises up as you head north as well. So to get the road from the Meredith Drive intersection and wind it around, with the design requirements for the roadways, with grade, limitations, and then just the natural topography. That's where that road needs to be.
Well, there's definitely a gas well based
It's
on
active.
the information.
Shown as active. So, in my opinion, it's going to sit somewhere. It's definitely going to be over the top of a lot. You guys are going to have to relook at this again. I don't think you did enough due diligence on the site. And I think you're going to waste our time coming back here again to revise it.
Was it a shallow well? We'll have
It's
to
shown
be
as
shallow.
a conventional active well.
So we think it was just the well that was servicing the house?
Hard to say.
Could have been for the old farmhouse up there.
Yeah.
I thought there was another one too. I'll have to look a little further on that. But like I said, this would be something I would think you guys would look at right away. So, it's concerning to me that something like that's pretty obvious.
I'd like to make a motion to table this until the developer comes back with more information regarding the oil well and other potential
think it's a gas well,
changes for the gas well.
I'll second that.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Well, I think we also have to deal with a greater narrative relative to this tree condition. I thought we got little bit of lip service with regard to particularly the tree down at the bottom of the right, like it's in the way.
Before you do that, I think you need to get permission from the developer to give you more time to be able to make that decision, because, there is timetables involved in this approval. And so, my question to the developer is, are you prepared to grant council an extension until our next meeting, or December 15th, so that in fact council can reconsider that?
You mean but the oil and gas wells?
If you're want to table this for the purpose of obtaining more information, regardless of whether it's the trees, gas wells, or otherwise, what I'm suggesting to you is that you need to get an extension from the developer to allow you to consider it at the December 11th meeting.
I think that's too soon.
But how long would it take to locate the gas well? I mean,
can't
the deeds,
imagine.
well, you can see it on the map there, right?
If Gary's showing that it's an active well, even on paper, I mean, there's a 200-foot setback from that well.
Well, DEP would know exactly where it is.
Yeah, but at
Oh,
the
yeah.
same,
Yeah, you should be able to pull up the
I'm not
coordinates
sure it's
right on here. I just can't see
what
it.
they
right, but at
consider
the same
active.
time, if it was just a well that was servicing the house, they could cap it, right? When you still gotta be 200 feet away. Well, no, but if it's capped. you
No,
don't have
not
to
if
be
it's
200
capped,
feet
but
away, right?
depending on who's going to do it, right?
Right.
If it's a shallow driller that's long gone, it's going to be on the DEP program to do
Yeah, that's not gonna, it's gonna sit there forever.
for a while. I mean, I know they've got money now, and they're actively out there doing more than they ever
Right.
have.
But there's a list.
There's a laundry list.
Company that I worked for, we uncovered when we offered to pay for it, and they said, we'll take your money, but it's not moving up on the list.
Yep. But I think for our purposes, if it's showing as active, I mean, there's, obviously this plan would be frustrated just on that alone. Because of the Pennsylvania setback for shallow wells, not ours.
What does that do within our ordinance relative to this timetable that Paul is?
Well, we don't allow drilling in this district in our ordinance, but that's.
No, but he's saying, what does
Oh.
it do with regard to the approval of the plan? Council can do one of two things. They can deny the plan.
You got my
But I
vote.
will point out to you that it conforms with our ordinance. Or you can table it, but if you're going to table it, I think you need to get an extension from the developer so that we don't
Run into a deemed approval.
approval. And I don't know why the developer wouldn't allow you to go to December 11th, given that this has been sitting here for a while now.
Doesn't our ordinance stipulate that the plan has to comply with other state and other governmental body regulations?
Yeah, I mean, I think there'd be grounds if we knew this was an active shallow well, we wouldn't approve it to frustrate the state law, in terms of a setback. But I haven't looked at anything, so I can't tell you what you're looking at, Gary. I know you look at these more than I do, but I've seen them, a lot of companies like to hold them out as active just for, holding oil and gas leases, but whether they're actually active, I don't know. But it still would need
Well,
to apply.
I guess ultimately, from the developer's perspective, if we were to approve this tonight, and you guys go tomorrow and look, and there's an active well there, this plan is null and void anyway, because you're gonna, if it's within, if there's any lot within 200 feet of it, you're gonna have to submit a new preliminary plan, right? So,
We'll grant a continuance until the December 11th date.
Well, December 11th is the next meeting.
And I'm not sure, Paul, if our ordinance requires it be in writing, the extension request.
We should get it right.
Yeah.
But we'll get something for you to sign. If they're going to acknowledge that there's an extension, I think that's good enough, and we can draft, we'll follow up to get something signed.
Thank you. We
all
appreciate
right,
that.
well, let's, in the next couple of weeks, figure out where this gas well is at, and see how it
We will.
impacts.
We'll see if it actually is actually there.
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, if the records are correct, and we'll try to figure that out.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern. Thanks, sir.
So was there a motion?
I did make a motion.
He made a motion, I
Dr.
second.
Carrasco.
Yeah, so we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay.
Nay.
5-1, Mr. Lauer. Next item, ordinance establishing the 2024 Peters Township pay plan governing full-time and part-time administrative employees.
So this is an annual review of the township's pay plan. What I'm recommending based upon raises that are provided for in collective bargaining agreements, as well as what are proposed increases in administrative pay plans for similar municipalities in southwestern Pennsylvania, that the pay plan be adjusted by 3.25%, and that be the standard increase that would be afforded employees. Having said that, by adopting the ordinance, it doesn't mean that any individual is receiving the 3.25%. It only creates the possibility of that.
All right, someone want to make a motion?
So
Ordinance
89897, is that what? I have it penciled.
Yeah, whatever the ordinance number is, I'll move to approve it.
I'll second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Payroll and Bills, Dr. Borosco.
Thank you. All payroll and bills have been reviewed in good standing order. Make a motion to approve.
I'll second. Motion and second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. 6-0, Mr. Lauer. Anything we need to discuss under correspondence, Mr. Lauer?
No, I would just note that Mr. Brown had asked that 2 letters be included in your docket from Commissioner Maggi and Commissioner Sherman concerning Druid Drive, and the gist of those letters is encouraging everyone to work together to find a solution.
Okay. I know nobody wants to discuss any of the reports. Anything under miscellaneous?
Yes. Two things.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're first.
Just a quick comment. I was at the rec center yesterday, very, very busy, and the care was top notch. Attendant Patty was there, I believe. So just appreciate that. So I'll bet that on
Mr. Lewis?
Is there a reason why we've lost internet connection up here on the desktops? It would have facilitated our dialogue in this earlier.
I can't tell you that.
We haven't had it in a while.
I know that it's been intermittent. I guess I've gone to my phone.
I'll tell you what, I'll have
Yeah, I can't even hit the Wi-Fi on my phone.
I'll have the IT guy tomorrow take a
You
look.
probably changed our password or whatever.
Anything anybody wants to see on the next agenda?
I just wanted to make an inquiry. Didn't we not have a discussion about maybe not accepting all these stormwater ponds and facilities?
No, actually, what is now the policy of the township is to accept responsibility for the maintenance of the ponds, but not accept responsibility for the landscaping associated with the ponds.
Okay.
The problem is these ponds, regardless of whether you give them to the HOA or leave them on individual property, there are responsibility, and when they fail, it's us having to deal with the property owner. And the problem is who you're protecting isn't necessarily the group where the pond sits. You're protecting the people that are downstream. So one of the things that in fact, we were just talking about this, that I commend the Public Works Department and Mark, is that we're now in a position where the ponds are now being maintained to the point that we may not have to go in and do the kind of remedial work inside those ponds that we've been doing over the last several years. The Public Works Department's been able to keep up with it.
What are they doing? Just going in and cleaning out sediment whenever there's storms? Or
They're cleaning up sediment, but the problem, when we don't address them on a regular basis, they overgrow, and now you're dealing with small trees and saplings and everything inside of them. And the Public Works Department, to their credit, once we have gone in and rehabilitated the pond, they're keeping up with them so that we're not having this ongoing problem.
Okay. Anything anybody wants to see on the next agenda? Anybody got anything else they want to address? We have an executive session?
Nope.
We are adjourned.